Hello everyone, TimeToGrind's here, and today it is that time of the year where we look back at the last 12 months of games and pick out my 10 personal favorite ones. So as always, this is my personal list. There's a million incredible games that have come out this year that I haven't even played, or some that I might not even have heard about, but I do play a lot of games on this channel, and this year there is a big variety of games on this list, from AAA games to obviously a lot of indie games, and a bunch of different types of genres, ranging from horror games to roguelikes. And speaking of roguelikes, since they are the largest genre of games that I cover, tomorrow I'll be releasing my top 10 roguelikes and roguelites of 2024 video, so there'll be a link to that video in the description down below if you want to check that out after this video. And the last thing before we jump into it, for almost every single one of these games on the list, we have at least one Let's Play and sometimes an entire playlist or series on these games, so I'll be linking to those in the description down below as well. But without further ado, let's jump into my top 10 games of the year. At number 10 on my list, we have a game that has technically been out for several years in early access, and that is Nova Drift. Nova Drift is hands down one of the top 10 roguelikes of all time in my opinion, and if you're looking for a spaceship shooter roguelike kind of game, there is literally no better game than that than Nova Drift. It's been an absolute labor of love over the years, and it's a game that over the last 3 years, I have released almost 50 videos on it on this channel, and it finally came out in 1.0 this year, and so there's no way that I couldn't include it on this list. There is literally hundreds of hours of replayability in the game for those that want it. There's several different spaceship types, randomized enemy formations and waves, and millions of different combinations of just absolutely crazy builds, ranging from homing rocket launcher builds to speedy crash builds where you just smash into the enemies at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's just an incredible roguelike experience with amazing visuals and a dope soundtrack, and every fan of roguelikes or arcadey spaceship combat kind of games definitely needs to play this game. And number 9 on my list, we have our first AAA game, Super Mario Party Jamboree. I don't normally play too many AAA games, or if I do, it's sometimes like a guilty pleasure or something I just play on the side, and not something that would make like a top 10 list. But this year's Mario Party is absolutely incredible. I have always been a Mario Party fan ever since I was a kid, and I can remember playing it with all the other kids at the daycare I went to, as a literal child. And, after playing several hours of Jamboree, I can easily say it's one of my favorite Mario parties. Unlike some of the other recent Mario Party games, Jamboree has so many different boards. The mini games are really fun. Reactions that other players can use when it's not their turn are just super fun, and it gives those players something to do. It's a really good gimmick. And the special Jamboree buddy gimmick, where you can recruit other characters to be your allies and give you special powers and allow you to do, double everything in the game, including buying 2 stars. It's just such a fun special feature. So if you like Mario Party games, this is one of the best ones in a very long time, and for that reason, I knew it had to make it somewhere on my list. Number 8 on my list is one of the first times a horror game has actually made it to one of my top 10 games of the year, I believe, and it is Mouthwashing. Mouthwashing is a short psychological horror game that only takes 2 to 3 hours to beat, about a crew of a futuristic, shipping spaceship where things go terribly wrong. It is absolutely one of those games where if you're wanting to play the game for yourself, you should not look up anything about the game, just jump straight into it and play it for yourself. Don't look at any Steam reviews or anything. The writing is top notch, all the characters feel so real, the music and the tension and the atmosphere are incredible, and it really is one of the best horror games I've ever played. So if you're a fan of horror games like me, especially the weird short story experiences like this, you absolutely need to try out Mouthwashing, or, watch a playthrough of it like ours at the very least. And at number 7 on my list, we have I Am Your Beast. And I Am Your Beast is another shorter story experience, but this time it is an incredibly hype and fast-paced FPS game that has you getting hunted across the North American wilderness by the American military itself. And so it has incredibly fun kind of sandboxy FPS levels where it's almost like Hotline Miami levels, but as an FPS. So you have an incredibly hype, heart-slamming soundtrack blaring while you're murdering all the enemies. There's tons of different weapons and things in each level to use to your advantage. And the best part is there is a fully voiced story that takes place in between the levels. So between each mission, you have this story playing out between calls that are taking place between you, the main character, Secret Agent Alphonse Harding, and the other members of the military that are trying to get you. And it's just really hard to do the game justice by explaining it, but just believe me when I say this is one of the best FPS games I've played this year, not only from the amazing gunplay and mission design, but the story and voice acting really transcends this to an absolute masterpiece. And at number 6 is pretty much my only other AAA game on this list this year, and that is Helldivers 2. Obviously, if you were pretty much anywhere on the internet when this game came out, you know how much hype there was for this game. Super simple formula, you play with some friends all trying to fight for freedom by eradicating creepy bugs and terrifying robots from the universe in the name of democracy. There's just so many freaking weapons and gadgets and vehicles and drones and centuries to unlock over the hundreds of hours of gameplay it has. And it is just unbelievable how fun playing with some friends online can be with this game, and with the variety of ways to kill your enemies, it always gives you something to work towards. I will say I kind of fell off this game and haven't played it for a while, especially when they started nerfing everything, but I do think they've gone back and added even more content and fixed up some of the stuff, and I will not forget how much dang fun this game was with friends, and it will always have a special place in my heart, especially because I actually played the original top-down Helldivers 1 with some of the same friends that I've now played Helldivers 2 with when I was a kid way back then. So it is just an incredibly fun video game. Now, for number 5 on my list, I think a lot of fans of my channel were definitely expecting this, but it is Peglin. Peglin is a cute little pachinko roguelike that has an insane amount of depth and content when you get into it. So much so that I have actually released over 300 videos of Peglin on my channel. So I'm definitely biased, but for real, Peglin is such an incredibly fun roguelike that can appeal both to a more casual player base because of its cute little goblin art style and the random pachinko kind of gameplay, and those that really want to sink hundreds of hours into it like me. There's several different classes to unlock, 20 levels of crucible difficulty, or ascensions as it's called in other roguelikes, if you want to sink your teeth into the game, and a wide variety of different builds and everything. A lot of people think this game has way too much RNG with the pachinko ball bouncing gameplay, and although it does have a more RNG than some other roguelikes, if you know what you're doing, you can get really good at the game like me. It's just so satisfying to murder enemies by throwing little, balls in a pachinko machine. I love this game to death. I even have a bunch of plushies right there and right there, and it is currently a staple series on my channel. So if you've never checked out this game, you definitely need to. Okay, now we're starting to get to the really good games. And so at number 4, we have Crypt Custodian. And Crypt Custodian is an absolutely charming Metroidvania about a mischievous cat who has died and is now in the afterlife. And this game is made by Kyle Thompson, who also made Sheepo and Islets, and we actually put Islets as my second favorite game of all of 2022. And it was the easiest choice ever to include Crypt Custodian this high up on the list as well. Kyle Thompson makes some of the best smaller scale Metroidvania experiences in both gameplay and charm. Crypt Custodian just radiates charm from the characters to the music to the environments you explore, and although there is one other Metroidvania that I do have higher on this list this year, when you play or watch Crypt Custodian, it's one of those games that you can really feel like the devs put 150% of their love and creativity into it. There were even a couple emotional moments I had, and I even shed some tears in this game, and it is just a fabulous game that any fan of Metroidvanias needs to play without a doubt. And our third favorite game of the year is actually 50 different games. And by that, I mean UFO 50. UFO 50 is a project I have been so hyped for over the last couple of years, and I've been following its development. And it is a collection of 50 different indie games created by the characters of Spelunky, which Spelunky is one of my favorite games of all time, Downwell, and Catacomb Kids. And these aren't just like 50 mini games. Every single game in UFO 50 is a complete experience. Some of them may be smaller puzzle games, but there are some entire open world adventures and JRPGs in this that have several hours of gameplay in them as well. And the way the whole thing is presented is half the fun. All of these games are in the story made by a fictional 80s video game company, and so it's like you stumbled on a collection of these alternate universe old video games. So trying them all out and discovering which ones you like is part of the fun, especially with a ton of the games having versus or co-op multiplayer. And although I haven't put as much time as I've wanted into UFO 50 this year, I knew it needed to be high up on this list from the sheer scope of the game and how impressive it turned out. Definitely an incredible game for the Steam Deck, you know, while traveling or just for messing around, because I'm not lying when I say that there are some absolute bangers in UFO 50. And at number 2 on my list is Balatro, or however you pronounce it. I feel like everybody pronounces it differently, but Balatro actually won Game of the Year at the big Game Awards or whatever this year, and it was so fun to see so many angry gamers mad that a big AAA game didn't win, especially because Balatro definitely deserves it. Balatro is a poker roguelike that is so simple to learn, but is incredibly addicting. It's all about getting insane and even illegal poker hands thanks to game-changing and many times game-breaking jokers and combos, and the way everything is presented, it has so much replayability. Between tons of different starting decks, all with, you know, the different unlockable difficulties, an insane amount of unlockable jokers, and a super hypnotizing art style and soundtrack, it really makes Balatro one of those games that anyone can play and get addicted to. Both a 70-year-old retiree and a 10-year-old getting into gaming both could get into this game. It's a roguelike for everyone, and it will truly be remembered as one of the best roguelikes of all time. And before we get to my number 1 favorite game of the entire year, I want to quickly go over some honorable mentions. Angerfoot is an incredible level-based FPS game like I Am Your Beast that leans way more into the gameplay and silliness instead of a fleshed out story, but the high adrenaline Hotline Miami but FPS gameplay is so fun. Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom is an insanely fun platformer inspired by games like Mario 64, except the gimmick is that you play as a taxi. So the movement text and gameplay are easily one of the most unique collectathon platformers you could ever play. And lastly, Adada is a music making game that has you playing with different gadgets, gizmos, and toys to create some wonderful sounding music. It's really one of the more unique experiences I've played this year. But without further ado, let's get to my absolute favorite game of 2024. And for my absolute favorite game of the year, I have to give it to Animal Well. Animal Well is the incredibly gorgeous and interconnected Metroidvania made by Billy Basso and published by Video Game Donkey's publishing company Big Mode. And holy cow, it is probably my favorite Metroidvania of all time, besides Hollow Knight, of course. But what makes Animal Well so special compared to other Metroidvanias is the secrets upon secrets upon secrets that this game has. The game is all about having you explore these just absolutely gorgeous environments while looking for new tools and toys to help you explore new areas and discover, you guessed it, more secrets. There's small secrets like shortcuts, new abilities, you know, the normal stuff, but then there's some insanely deep secrets that get to like ARG territory where you need to work with the community and stuff, and I never really checked out that much because you don't need to do all of that to just, you know, beat the game, but the game was not lying when it claimed that players will be discovering hidden secrets for years. All the items have multiple uses, so you feel so freaking smart when you discover a secret for yourself, and all the enemies and environments and items interact in incredibly surprising and deep ways that will make even a casual player feel like an uber hacker Nova's speedrunner, you know, when they discover how to, you know, maybe cross a bunch of water with their frisbee, or how to use fireworks in a bunch of different ways, you know, and those are just a couple examples. And and it is just truly one of the best Metroidvanias ever made, and people will remember this game as one of the great Metroidvanias, just like Hollow Knight. And that is my top 10 favorite games of 2024. I can't believe how fast this year has gone by, especially with me moving into my first ever home and building out the studio further, and I'm so excited to see what 2025 has in store for us gamers. And I am especially super interested in what y'all's favorite games of 2024 was, so definitely let me know in the comments down below, either your full top 10 list or just some of your favorite games, especially if there were some that I missed. And like I said earlier, if you want to see my videos / series on any of the games on this list, I've made content on pretty much everything except Mario Party Jamboree, I believe, so check the description if you're interested. Also, the top 10 roguelikes and roguelites video, if that's out already, if that interests you. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I maybe introduced you to some games you might have missed this year, and consider subscribing and ringing that bell like all the big boy YouTubers say, to be notified for all the awesome content we got coming out in 2025. And no matter what you're going to be playing or grinding next, I wish you all luck, and I'll see you all next time.